Hi, Trixie.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
Great.
Okay, before we talk about the new album, I'd like to go to the beginning. And do you remember the first album you fell in love with?
Oh God, there's so many. Yeah, I mean, as a child, I was obsessed with music. I recall I had actually like one of my first tapes, which was I didn't listen to children's music at all, but I did have a tape that was Little Richard singing the alphabet. So that was like the one, like, kind of children song tape that I had. And then of course, yeah, I was kind of in the like MTV generation in the early 90s. So I guess like Nirvana and also like Crisscross at the time, stuff like that. And like Bootsy Collins was, I remember I loved him, but I'm talking about like when I was like, you know, like 4 or 5 years old.
When
So,
then
yeah.
did music begin to take a different role in your life? Because obviously you were surrounded by music all the time.
Yeah. I don't really recall it ever not being there. I mean, it was always, I think, really the only consistency that I've seemed to have ever had in my life has been music. Yeah, and it's always just been this like, yeah, consistent thing in my life, and I I'm really thankful that I never really had like a moment where I felt like I had to make a decision in regards to like what I was going to do with my life, and whether music was going to be part of that or not. Like that was just like a given. But so I started touring. I mean, I started playing drums when I was like 10 or 11, and then that same year I started touring with several like actually like pretty avant-garde like theater and dance collectives. So it was kind of like music and performance all came together at the same time when I was about 11 years old. And but the first time I was on stage, I was 3. I remember that. And then I do recall like once I started kind of touring at that age, so basically when I was about like 11 years old and started touring, and I played drums then, and then I played a little bass as well and sang. So I've always sung. But I do recall like kind of I missed a lot of school because I toured all the time. And then when I was about 15 or 16, I do remember having this like period where I was like kind of overwhelmed by all the creative outlets that I had. Between like performance and acting and dance and music, and then I was like, shit, I gotta make a choice between all of this because I can't do it all at the same time. And then just really realizing like, well, if there's one thing that like I just undeniably cannot live or breathe without, it's definitely music. But through that channel of music, the amazing thing is that I can continue to involve those other channels of expression within it. So I think that became really clear to me around that age. But yeah.
What did you get out of it at that? Because you say you were very young at that point. So in terms of the expression, what did you get out of performing and music? And
I mean, I guess mostly was that it just really felt like it was the place where I belonged. And I didn't feel like I ever felt a sense of belonging kind of elsewhere. So in the sense of like, I mean, I was horrible in school, and I was like a total, just as a child, like I just, it felt so impossible to like fit in with the expectations of a child my age at that time. But where I did feel like I really was at home at was through, through my expression and through creativity and mostly through music. That was just the place where I felt like I could really be myself. And when that was kind of taken away, I've always kind of felt lost or something. I kind of just didn't really know what to do with myself. So, yeah.
At the same time, then, was it weird to be 10 or 11 and going through all these adult things in a way?
I mean, at that age, I don't think I was even that. It just felt so natural. Honestly, it started getting weirder the more kind of self-conscious I became, like as a teenager. That's when it got weirder, like, or just more like alienating or something. Because I remember being on this cusp of like, you know, I'd been out on the road for several years, and then all of a sudden I was like 15, and I was like, wait, I should be like partying and hanging out with friends all the time. And then I like kind of went really deep into that, and just got bored of it really fast. To be honest, like I think I went through this like serious partying phase and was like a total rave kid, and but then quickly I got kind of bored of it, and then just went back to the place where I felt like I belonged most. Even though, of course, I've had several times in my life where I definitely like thought or like longed for a sense of like normalcy or something, but then I'd always come back to like this kind of sense of like, but what does that mean? And again, I mean, I think that's something different for everyone, and ultimately, you know, home is where the heart is, and for me, if my heart is where the music is, that's just where I feel best, and that's where I feel most at home. So, is
it still the same? Do you still think about that?
Yeah, very much. I mean, it's just something that I just can't. I mean, again, I think when I get in my head, or when I get kind of like influenced by exterior motives or whatever, I like try to conform myself. That's when I just know that I'm actually not being true to my essence, and so it's always been that way. And I think I'm really thankful that it's always been that clear as well. And I've always known that has been my guidance, you know, like that I just always had to stay as close as I possibly could to my own essence, and that that was just the main purpose of crafting my life, you know.
And you mentioned choosing music as your main form of expression. Were you writing your own songs by then?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they were total crap for sure. But yeah, I mean, I started writing. I mean, I guess the funny thing is too, because my first instrument was drums, so I didn't write songs to like to my, you know, with drums I wouldn't write songs, but I would write music to like instrumental stuff. Okay. When I first started, before I had like a melodic instrument. And then I remember always like performing and stuff too as a child. Like I would always put on little performance pieces, and but the hilarious thing is, so in those years, like I guess when I first started writing my first like songs, you know, I had little tape machines and 4-tracks and stuff. But I also was really into like kind of ambient electronic music, and so, I mean, what's so ironic is that the first songs I think that I really wrote that were like, had some sense of structure were to like Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois instrumentals when I was around that age. So I only played drums at the time and didn't have, I didn't play piano or guitar yet, but I would play, yeah, I mean, I would write to these ambient instrumentals. And so then years later to kind of have crossed paths with Lanois, and then him kind of becoming like my mentor was kind of like my history was like coming back to kind of, you know, complete a circle or something.
Do you still have those tapes?
You know what? They've got to be somewhere. I know that they're laying around somewhere. Given that I've moved so much, I kind of just have stuff of mine spread over the world. Like, so I'd like to go and try to find them back. They're somewhere, but I don't know where they are exactly.